I'm here with Dr. Ronald Klatz, President of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And we wanted to expand upon a subject that's of international crisis, the nuclear reactors that are spewing out particles. It's not just the radiation poisoning that we have to be worried about, the short-term damage. It's the long-term effect that we're all concerned about, isn't it?
It's the fallout in the particles that no one is talking about that is really going to lead to tens of thousands, millions, perhaps tens of millions of cancers, infectious diseases, damage to bone marrow, damage to cells, damage to overall health. We have managed to pollute the environment in an unprecedented way with these radioactive fallout particles. These particles can be as small as a microscopic speck of dust and can lead to cancer. The radioactivity has reached into the food, into the soil, into the water supplies, into the fish. Okay, we're going to start seeing radioactivity in milk. We're going to start seeing radioactivity. We already has been reported some radioactivity in milk. We're going to see it in meat. It's going to affect the entire food chain. It's going to affect the entire environment, and it's going to affect every single man, woman, and child on the planet who breathes the air, drinks the water, eats the food. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible event, and people need to take action to protect their health and their longevity now.
So possibly the only chance that we can survive this nuclear disaster, as evidence from Chernobyl and other places that have experienced disasters. And this disaster is even far greater because the amount of plutonium, which is basically a new element, it never existed in the history of the world, it is something that's so toxic in the trillions, those, like you said, particles that you can't even see. If it lodges onto your bone cancer eventually, thyroid cancer, breast, all the tissues that are at risk. So if we're exposed to these particles, or worse yet, we are not aware we're exposed and we're not taking steps. If a person's looking for free radical damage or byproducts of lipid metabolism, or looking under a microscope, or they go to an anti-aging doctor who's proficient in these things, it's very likely that a doctor trained in the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine will be familiar with detoxification, with detection, with the necessary steps. You even have now offered fellowships on cancer prevention and treatment, stem cell, how to bank the cells, basically creating a twin for yourself. So if, God forbid, a disease develops 2-3 years or 10 years.
Biological twin of your immune system.
Yes.
That can be used to help reseed the organs of the body, the bone marrow, these stem cells can be used to repair and replace existing tissue. That may be very helpful in the future in some of the cancers that are going to come out of this radiation catastrophe. It's really such a big problem. It's so hard to wrap your head around it. Most people can't quite come to grasp with it yet. But it is a problem that requires that people take action. We can't sit back and be passive. We can't sit back and wait for the talking heads on CNN to tell us what to do. We have to go to the internet. We have to learn about the risks of radiation. I mean, there's 60 years, 70 years worth of science on the internet about what radiation causes. There is no safe level of radiation. It doesn't matter what they say. There's no such thing as a little bit of good radiation, especially not of radioactive fallout. You know, the argument may be made that if you take a chest x-ray once every now and then, that's not going to hurt you. That may be true. But the radiation that we're talking about is the particulate radiation, the fallout radiation of these radioactive isotopes that are breathed in, that are eaten, that are lodged within your body and become part of you, and that attack the DNA of your cells, destroy the cells, and give birth to new cancers. These are extremely hazardous materials, and people need to take action on a personal basis for detoxification, for improving their health, for cancer surveillance, to make sure that the air that they're breathing has been scrubbed of this particulate, to make sure the water they're drinking is clean, and to make sure, most importantly, the food they're eating is not coming with an extra free serving of radioactive toxins.
Well, this is the best information we have at this time. The reality is that you're all at risk. And think about your children, your grandchildren, the birth defects that came out of Chernobyl, the risk to any fragile human tissue. It's not like out of these cartoons where radiation exposure to the Hulk and he turns into this massive, strong individual.
It's not a good
It's
thing
a terrible, disastrous disease that eats away at the body, and cancer is an ugly disease. The rates of cancer have increased to levels we've never seen before.
No, in places like Bosnia, where we've bombed with depleted uranium, and depleted uranium is not depleted of radiation, it's just uranium that cannot be used for nuclear weapons, but it's still radioactive. And in places where we've used radioactive bombs, and we're still using them in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Iraq, in places where we use radioactive isotopes, the incidence of cancer has gone through the roof. The incidence of child birth defects have increased by a factor of 400%. It's a horrible, horrible thing that radiation can do and is doing, and they're doing it in our names. And that's the worst part of all. We as a people should be responsible for the acts of our corporations and our governments. And we're not taking charge, we're not taking control, but we have all the damage that's being done is coming back home to roost. And this is something that we must live with, and that our children will live with, our parents will live with, or will die with.
And it's still leaking. They don't have it under control.
And it's still not under control. And the story has not been told. What we've heard on the news is only the happy face, is only the top of the story. We haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but it doesn't matter, it's too late.
We have to take personal responsibility now.
Personal responsibility, because no one else will.
No one else will. Thank you, Dr. Klatz.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado.